Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mimi Kane, and it is my absolute honor and privilege to welcome you to today's program. Thank you so much for joining us. So today, this morning, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this concept called digitalization and the role that it's playing in the manufacturing industry as well as the supply chain industry. Now, you know, so much has changed over the last couple of years, and there are many examples of how digitalization in manufacturing specifically has affected or is affecting how products are designed, produced, maintained even, etc. So there's been a lot of change. So we're going to dig a little bit into that and also look at how it affects operations as far as supply chains are concerned. So the digitalization processes appear to have cut through the noise. I think you would agree. It helps us make decisions faster and also set more relevant metrics and KPIs. So I have a wonderful panel of speakers today that's going to help me tackle these topics. First, from SAP, we have Mike Wade, who's the head of digital supply chain, and Carlos Portillo, who's the EMEA South Business Development Manager, and they'll be giving us a joint presentation. Then from SAPICS, MJ Schumacher will be joining us. She is the president of the professional body for supply chain management. And then Jeremy Baskin also will be joining us. He's managing director and transformation leader at Neways. So before we get into that, just a little bit of housekeeping, just so that you know, the program will go until 12 o'clock. And also, I will be opening up the floor at some point during the program for you to get to ask your questions. So please get a pen and paper out and note them down so that you don't forget. Now, it is absolutely my pleasure to introduce to you our first speaker, President of SAPICS, MJ Schumacher, who has a very, very impressive resume. She is a supply chain professional with more than 30 years of global experience, and she's worked across the supply chain industry with a good mix of sectors such as FMCG, high-tech, consumers, as well as pharma. And she'll be talking to us about the challenges and opportunities that her members face at the moment as a result of digitalization, and also to talk to us about what actually works when it comes to digitalization. Here you go, MJ, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this great opportunity to present today. It's thanks to Mimi also for the very good introduction. I'm just going to share my screen. Just a little bit of information about SAPICS. So SAPICS, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a not-for-profit organization which supply chain professionals can become a member. And we support anything around your development, conferences, learning, which is a session like we have today. This is a learning session. So please have a look at our website, and then you can see what you can gain from becoming a member of SAPICS. Today's subject is a great subject because I think it's very, very valid at the moment. You know, digitalization is something I think a lot of people are looking at. And if we look at what our new world looks like, I'm sure you've all heard of the word VUCA. You know, looking back at what's been happening, what does VUCA mean to us? So volatility, we've had a lot of volatility, and I'll you know, expand a little bit on that. A lot of uncertainty, there's much more complexity, and there's a lot of ambiguity. So when we look at you know, where that came from, VUCA actually is a word that was used in the army originally, and is now used across business and society. It talks about what is happening with the world around us today. So it's a situation of constant, unpredictable change that is now the norm. You know, I don't think I have to convince anybody of that, and it's across certain industries and areas of the business world. When we look at a survey that was done at the time of the pandemic, 94% of the US Fortune 1000 companies complained of experiencing supply chain disruptions. And I think for all of us, that is no surprise. And there is evidence that indicates that the South African businesses of all sizes were similarly affected. I think within South Africa, you know, we had the addition of the pandemic. We also had the unrest, which was just, you know, exasperating the situation. and it caused a great deal of disruption across the supply chains, really from the beginning to the end. You know, just because a port, for example, when Transnet had their breakdown in their IT section, it doesn't mean that it's just the containers. There's just this domino effect across all the businesses, from the production line down to the sales team. So let's talk a little bit about those challenges. If we look at VUCA and what it means for us, so you can see at the bottom here is how much do you know about the situation and how well can you predict the results of your actions. So if we just look at ambiguity, this is the box, of course, that's the one we're always very afraid of when we do an analysis of our own business, because you don't know anything about the situation, you don't know what is going to happen, and you're not sure what the results will be of your actions. What do I need to do? The uncertainty is really about, you understand a little bit about your situation, you know what's going on, but what is going to happen? If you take action, will it be enough? If we look at complexity also shows, there are so many multiple key decision factors that you have to take into consideration, and how do you manage that complexity? And volatility is the word I think is here to stay, is really, trying to manage those situations. So when you know about the situation and you've taken your action, how do you know that what you have decided will continue to be sustainable? What is going to change in the meanwhile? What does your future look like? So VUCA in our world today says you have to avoid those traditional outdated approaches to management and leadership, a very important part of that. Leadership, that's where it all starts, and your day-to-day working. If people are running companies that are trying to manage their business with Excel and spend weeks trying to find out what happened, this is not good enough anymore. This is something that we will not manage through the way that the VUCA world has gone. So you have to focus on risk management. You have to understand where the weakness is in your organization, obviously the strengths as well, but in a situation like that, what went wrong, and create transparency. You need to know things quickly. You cannot try and wait and try to manage things as they go along, and you don't actually know what's happening across your business. And when I say across your business, I mean the end to end. It's not just in the supply chain, it's also across finance, it's across marketing, sales. Everybody needs to work together. It has to be a completely team effort, so that you can try and anticipate what is going to happen, what is going to change, react, and also have scenarios. Think about what are the different scenarios that we can look at, and then see what is the best scenarios and what are the risks of those scenarios. And that's how you can manage your business better. What works in the new world? Let's talk about that. I spoke about volatility. So when you have volatility, that means you need to have a vision. When there's uncertainty, you need to understand what is going on. When you have complexity, you need to create clarity. And when you have ambiguity, that means you need to be agile. I think agility is a big word now. Typically, when I talk about the traditional way of working, you have the production lines and everybody's producing according to the economic way of producing. Let's do big runs so that the product is cheaper to produce. That does not work anymore because you are not agile. So what do we do about countering volatility? Vision, create a compelling vision and value for your people. Make sure that they really understand where the business is going. Meet uncertainty with understandings. Find out what your competitors are doing. Try and keep up with your competitors. See how they are also managing the situation and what you can do about it. React to complexity with clarity. When there's complexity, you need to create a clear picture of what is going on in your business, what I said previously in the previous slide, to make sure that you're very clear about where you're going and what you need to do. Fighting ambiguity with agility. You have to be fast. You need to make sure that you are quick to react, and that's that transparency that is really, really so important, is that you need to have that transparency so that you can be agile and react and try and anticipate as well. It's not always about reacting. Say the lower maturity organizations often react, but that doesn't count anymore. We have to react and we have to anticipate. A smart supply chain is a transparent and efficient supply chain. So enabling the organization to harness the power of the cloud and to have a comprehensive data-driven business is so important. This is where we need to be going. Maximum visibility through a hyper-connected supply chain. Make sure all those chains are talking to each other. Make sure that they're all connected. Don't allow for silos where everybody is doing their own thing. The olden way of working where you look out for your KPIs, you throw it over the fence, but those KPIs don't match to the next organization or next part of your business. End-to-end teamwork. Optimization means you have to be able to deal with anomalies rather than the norm. And that's it. This is the key sentence of this presentation. It's only going to be anomalies. And everyone needs to know how to manage those. More than 80% of countries are accelerating automation in response to COVID-19. I'm sure that's also no surprise to you. And it's actually quite interesting to see that the biggest percentage are the financial services, followed by retail. And I'm a bit sad, I have to say, about healthcare, because that's one of the things we really need to pay attention to. But the pandemic has actually pushed this world into a new tempo, which is good, because then things happen. So the smart supply chain should take care of the larger data points. So whatever you can automate and allow for self-optimization, that's what you need to do. Because the digitalization actually makes it easier for your employees to deal with the smaller sudden changes and those disruptions, because then they have transparency, they can get into the data, and they can try and work out what to do next. When we look at the growth of digitization across the world, I was actually quite surprised to see that, not about China. So China's way ahead of us. You can see South Africa is down here. So we're actually almost better than Germany and Japan, and even India, which is quite a surprise. But if you look at China are leading the way in digitalization, and they're also leading the way in e-commerce. So try and imagine how those two fit together. Remember, disruptive events are here to stay. Anomalies are here to stay. Thank you. Back to Mimi.
Thank you so much, MJ, for that wonderful, wonderful presentation. What I got from it is that smart supply chains are transparent and efficient, and we're definitely not going back to what was normal. It is an anomaly, and we have to adapt. So thank you very, very much for that. We now are going to talk about the day-to-day operations as well as the maintenance operations. What is the role of technology in terms of streamlining operational activities? And for this, and specifically its effect on the bottom line. So for this, we have Jeremy Baskin. He is a results-focused business operations and supply chain transformation leader. He's held senior leadership roles at Unilever, Johnson & Johnson, and Coca-Cola, has a really impressive resume, and he's delivered multiple business transformation and improvement processes across Africa, Europe, and the Americas. Jeremy, I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Mimi. Good morning, everybody. What I would like to do is just share with you some of those experiences that I've had over my career, from building basic systems to full implementations. I'm just checking you can see my presentation. Okay, good. And just in terms of that, I've spent over the last 30 years with rolling out sales and operations planning, operating models to over 140 countries, using SAP as a key enabler to do this. So as MJ has talked about, we now go into what we call the new normal. And how do we take the new normal and start working with it and understanding, well, how do we work with it? What do we need? And what are the skills that we need in terms of dealing with the new normal? So some of the tools and techniques that we use is around four things. First of all, understand what that problem is. So visibility, really understand what visibility looks like, and also what trends we are starting to see. and define that problem. I always say, what is the problem statement? What are we trying to solve here? And then against that, what are those solutions? And with those solutions, we need to make some assumptions. And we also need to understand what digital tools are that come with it. And the journey that we go through is from the challenge to the outcome is we need to discover, we need to define, and we need to develop those solutions that we're after. So in terms of what does that really mean, let's bring it to life with some of the challenges that we're seeing happening, and to just try and bring one of those to life, as we've seen in South Africa, particularly with COVID and the riots that we saw in KwaZulu-Natal. The lifeline to our country is getting things in and getting things out. And the majority of where that comes through is through our ports. So as soon as we have disruption in our country, we start locking down our lifeline is through our ports. And I got involved with the port authorities during that to try and help them understand, how can we solve this problem? And the biggest challenge was we were working from day to day. Oh, we missed so many, we weren't able to move so many containers, etc., working from day to day. So what we needed to do is really understand what was the size of the problem, what are the options that we had, how big is that backlog, and how do we need to do things. So we developed what we call a control tower, as you can see over there, looking at the 6 areas. So vessels coming in and out, what trucks we had. Particularly, it wasn't only just physical trucks, because as we know, a lot of trucks actually got burnt. And on top of that, truck drivers were very scared to go and drive that. And on top of that, we couldn't move the trucks around because of the disruption. Trying to get trucks up the N3, where there was quite a lot of disturbances going on, was really difficult to do. And then also understanding what we can move by rail. And then on top of that is to say, how much storage capacity, you can't just keep on bringing in containers or taking out containers and not understanding where that storage is. And then physically, how much can we move from the water side to the land side, and from the land side onto those transports, and trying to coordinate it and have that visibility and understand where those challenges were extremely challenging. So what we did is we created what we call a dashboard, and through that technology we were able to see exactly what was moving, how it was moving, what the truck movements, where the rails were, where the bottlenecks were, and how big that backlog was, and what did we need to do, and how did we engage the various parties and authorities to start clearing the ways and working together as a team to looking after the backlog. So that just gives you an idea. We need to have that visibility before we can act. So visibility really key. Another thing is understand those trends. So when we talk about the new normal, what do those trends look like? And always what we say is, there's 4 trends. There's a whole, which says, okay, this is a once-off event and it recovers. There's a step shift. Well, actually, the market has now changed, or it's a trend that goes up, or there's a variation that goes up and down. And that's what, when we start talking about the VUCA world, we need to understand what does that mean from the new normal. And just taking some data from the UK, looking at 4 things. They look at how much food is being consumed through the retail, how much non-food is being consumed for the retail, how much is going through non-store, and then what's happening with fuel. And as you can see, the graphs have been going up slightly in what we call which is the online. The index on the side talks about 100 index being the norm, and then obviously 150 is 50 percentage bases above the norm and 50 below the norm. So as you can see, online or non-store activities have been progressively growing over time, but then we had COVID. And then we had the lockdown where you saw we went up to around about 200, 250, and that's where it seems to be. The other interesting thing is food continued to grow. And what we found was that we were able to really model for our clients the fact that when you have a lockdown, you have 30% of your food is consumed what we call by food services. So those are canteens, restaurants, bars, etc. and the rest from the retail. So as soon as you shut down, your offices, so your sandwich bars and your restaurants, you shut down your restaurants, you shut down your schools, people aren't eating at the canteens at school, more people need to eat at home. So as you shut down, you can actually work out how many more people are going to be moving from the retail and why that food goes up. And similarly with the fuel, with people not moving. Another interesting thing that the whole market has now completely changed. So Marks and Spencer in the UK normally sell 4.5 million suits a year. What they have found now that people's habits have now changed. People are not wearing as many suits, and they are selling around about 2 to 2.5 million suits a year. To the fact that they're seeing this has continued in terms of a trend. And what they've also found that casual wear, things like chinos and smart shirts have gone up by 100 to 150% as casual wear. So they're seeing these trends to such an extent that I think out of their 400 stores that sell suits, they only have 200 that will now sell suits because of the new trend, the new normal, that people don't feel they need to be smart anymore because that's now become what we call the new normal. So we use the data and we use the trends to help us make decisions. But always the biggest question is, well, if you've got trends and you've got information, it's easy to make a decision. But if you don't have that, you need to make some assumptions. And this is what we talk about. Let's use the insights, so understand the areas that are affected and the percentage that are affected, understand what the market and the consumptions are, create some scenarios around that, and then you look at your options, what we call assumptions. So we agree those assumptions, particularly to give you a good indication when you start using very seasonal products like an ice cream. You will plan your season on what index do you want to do that on: 100%, which is a normal weather, 120%, which is above normal weather, or an 80%, which is below normal, because you need to pre-build and make that stock well before that. So therefore you need to make some assumptions, and some of those assumptions give you insights. We now work with weather companies that look at the trade winds, they look at the ocean temperatures, they look at currents that are flowing, and from that you can start predicting whether it's going to be above average summer or below average summer in terms of that. So there's quite a lot of intelligence that we can start using to make those to make those assumptions. And to just give you another example, in South Africa, the food retail is worth 754 billion, and the food services, which is the bars, the restaurants, the takeaways, etc., is 102 billion. So as soon as you start having lockdowns at the curfew times, people start moving from more food service to for retail, and therefore you can start looking at what does that mean for you and what does that mean from you as a business model, and you build those into your assumptions. But always what you need some tools. And the digital tools evolution that we talk about is you need to have tools that you can able to transact, is the first step. The next step is we need to have some type of visibility, which is reporting, understand what's happening. We need to have some planning tools, so we're able to plan. And then we start talking about synchronizing. So synchronizing equipment with each other. So you start, the intelligent devices that we have out there, and we're able to do that. We synchronize our production plans with our supply plans, with our promotional plans, with our, everything is starting to get synchronized, and we're starting to need a lot more brain power around that. And then we move to the final one, which is optimization. So really optimizing the way that we work. And in order to do that, we need different levels of capabilities in each one of those steps. So we then look at each one of those steps of what capabilities we need. And those capabilities, we start off saying, you start with administrative, which is just things on an Excel spreadsheet. You then start looking at workload focus stuff. You start using analyticals, some statistical modeling. You then start an exception management. You then start automating some of your process and some of the things. And then we go to the new world. Everyone talks about AI. I don't like to talk about AI. I like to talk about specifics around that. So we talk about machine learning. But then also AI is made of three components. It's made of machine learning, it's made of knowledge-based systems, and it's made of persistent knowledge. So what does that actually mean? Well, machine learning means you have a set of rules and the machine can follow those rules. Knowledge-based systems is saying, well, we have some patterns and we're able to identify those patterns and therefore work to those patterns. And then your persistent knowledge is around how we make decisions. So machines are watching what decisions are we making, and then it can reenact effectively those decisions that you have. And those are all the way in terms of our digital tool journey is, you need to evolve with the tools, but also you need to think about what capabilities do you need in what particular area. And a lot of businesses, I work with go in and say, well, I want AI, I want to optimize everything, but actually they haven't got the basic visibility or the basic planning stuff in place. And it just leads to frustration and poor delivery of your investment or your benefits that come out of that. So to just finish that off, the 4 things just to take away through is think about visibility, think about trends, think about digital tools, think about assumptions. But you can have the best tools, the best process, and the best people, but no one uses the processes, nobody uses the tools, etc., because it's what takes leadership, change management, and master data. Those are the 3 criteria that need to be. And if we haven't got the right leadership in place, this all doesn't work. It doesn't matter what you buy or what you put in. Those are the critical enablers that we talk about. So thank you, everyone. Hopefully that was useful. I know we only had 10 minutes to give you a quick rundown, but I hope that was useful. So thank you all, and back to Mimi in the studio.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, for that very, very comprehensive presentation, even though you only had 10 minutes. And I must say, one of the things that I love about technology is that it gives us a sense of predictability as much as we possibly can in these very, very trying times. So appreciate that. Now, manufacturing companies are really facing challenging times at the moment, because not only have they had to increase productivity while producing individualized products, in a high quality environment where customers are expecting and demanding so much more of them. And Industry 4.0 has become a strategic priority to all of us in order to turn these challenges into actual opportunities. So SAP can help you make Industry 4.0 your everyday reality. Now we hear from Mike Wade, SAP's Head of Digital Supply Chain, and Carlos Portillo, SAP's EMEA South Business Development Manager, who will be giving us some insights into the following things. First of all, why SAP's strategy for Industry 4.0 is now called Industry 4.0 now. What is their approach to Industry 4.0, and what are their main business pillars? What are SAP's main Industry 4.0 scenarios and use cases, customer stories, and how SAP can help you in your digital transformation journey? I can't wait to hear that. So Mike and Carlos, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the introduction, Mimi, and good morning, everyone. As Mimi said, my name is Mike Wade, and I lead our digital supply chain business for what we call South Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I'm based here in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai. It's my pleasure to be able to meet you all and address you today. So we've heard about Industry 4.0 several times already in the introduction. So how can Industry 4.0 help you unlock digitalization and help you transform both your supply chain and manufacturing operations? In simple terms, quite easily, because once you consider the fact that Industry 4.0 is actually the digitalization of your supply chain, from smart factories to smart warehousing and logistics. But Industry 4.0 does not stop there. It must interconnect with your company's back-end ERP. And this interconnectivity is where you gain the ultimate level of visibility and control, as we just heard from our previous speaker. So Industry 4.0 is actually a major part of your company's digitalization strategy. But let me be clear, Industry 4.0 also helps transform very, very positively the role that people play in the processes by upskilling and engaging the human workers. We see an empowering of people with technologies like artificial intelligence, and giving them access to sensor data from manufacturing shop floors, for example, which means that decision support is enhanced for each and every worker. So it absolutely is a combination of the technology and the people, as always. Now, over the past 4 years since I've been in this region, I've talked to many customer executives who state that they know they can embrace Industry 4.0 in their organization. They want to do it. I've seen what I would call a curiosity about the topic, but what I've also seen is a hesitance, a reluctance in some way to move forward. Now, this has always interested me. You know, why, when the value available is so great, do companies not agree a corporate mandate to embrace this digital transformation in their business? I believe we may have a clue as to why this happens in a really super initiative that's been put in place, combination of McKinsey and the World Economic Forum. So they have created what the World Economic Forum call the Global Lighthouse Network. Now, at the end of 2020, there were 54 factories around the world that were classified as lighthouse manufacturers. And I'm sure many more will be added by the end of this year. Now, the research between McKinsey and the World Economic Forum has shown that when companies set a mandate to embrace Industry 4.0 at full scale is really important, then the benefits and the business value are huge and tremendous. However, they also report something I find particularly interesting, which is that many companies, in fact, most companies, are stuck in what they term pilot purgatory. Pilot purgatory. This is where a company is curious, but somehow lack the momentum to move on. However, I firmly believe that over the past 19 months with the pandemic, things have changed. And the focus on supply chain and manufacturing resilience is such that I believe we will see a significant increase in momentum of those companies moving beyond this pilot purgatory into full-scale adoption. Certainly from the conversations with my customers, I'm already seeing this across the region. So excellent, Carlos, you're on the slide, super. So let's just highlight here a few things. As you can see from what I said, there's some statistics here that back it up quite nicely. So most organizations, a majority of organizations would say, yes, Industry 4.0 is a priority. But less than 30% in this survey have actually gone to full scale. And you can see that over 40% were still piloting. And the value is enormous. And I would encourage everybody, if they haven't seen that research from McKinsey and the World Economic Forum, take a look at it, search it out, and you will see that the value identified is absolutely enormous. And when you think about the value, it's super and it should be achieved by many organizations. So I would encourage those companies in this call to ask yourself, do you want to receive the business value that is available to your organization in the same way that the lighthouse manufacturers have done? If so, this session is perfect for you. In a moment, my colleague Carlos Portillo will double click into the next level of detail, and you will understand how SAP and our organization can help your organization move from perhaps curiosity or from perhaps a pilot mode into full business value seen from Industry 4.0. So with this, I'd like to hand over to Carlos. Thank you again. It's been my pleasure to address you just for a few moments, and have a great day, everyone. Over to you, Carlos.
Thank you very much, Mike. Yes, as we see the McKinsey report, so which are those opportunity areas and what are we seeing in the market where manufacturing industries and suppliers are actually investing in Industry 4.0? So I'm going into the next slide, and what you're seeing right now, if we see the left side of the screen, you see 3 circles. So those are what we have seen and analysts have identified as well as the main priority areas where customers are investing in a digital transformation and Industry 4.0 use cases in order to improve their operations. So the first one that we see is that investments are around how to improve the business performance. So how can you be more agile? How can you be more productive? How can you increase asset utilization? How can you better adapt to changes? And how can you have a better competitive advantage using what you have right now? So it's one of the main areas that we see a lot of industries and a lot of customers investing in, how to improve our own operations. The second area of investment where we are seeing a lot of customers doing Industry 4.0 use cases is around improving the customer experience. And this is to your customers or your end consumers as well. Yeah. And what we see as a big trend and market dynamic is that customers are and end consumers are connected. Yeah. So everybody has now a mobile device and everybody wants now individualized products. Yeah, I want my own sneakers with the look and feels I want, the colors that I want, with the fabric that I want for the specific purpose that I need them. Yeah. But it's not only the challenge of how me as a manufacturer can produce more individualized products, but also how can I bring them to the market in a very quick way. Yeah, so time to market is also becoming critical. And also customers are expecting those products not only to be personalized or individualized products, not only requesting them to be delivered as soon as possible, the same day or next day delivery, but also they want to trust in the brands as well. And the last area of investment that we see customers doing is around product excellence. So the product excellence is very tied into the customer experience because we see the more and more we see individualized products becoming a reality. That means that manufacturing industries have to innovate and have to have more frequent design cycles throughout a year. Yeah. And there is a big burden on how can we do a seamless handover from product engineering and product development into manufacturing. Yeah. So how can we help customers adopt innovation, faster innovation cycles into the products, but how can we assist our customers in making those products more sustainable and also with a good quality. Yeah. So there's a lot of technology enablers that are achieving this. And as you can see, we're talking about autonomous systems, OT to IT convergence, edge computing, a lot of different technologies that has to be adopted in order to help improve the manufacturing operations or whatever business needs are around it. So with this, SAP has defined a strategy. Let me see, how can I hide this? Yeah. Okay, so SAP has defined a strategy for Industry 4.0, and our strategy is called Industry 4.0. And we call it now mainly to address the challenge that Mike Wade was mentioning, yeah, that we see a lot of customers that stays in a piloting purgatory. And the reasons Mike mentioned pretty well, but just want to highlight some of the reasons is that there is a lot of vendors with different technologies to leverage different use cases. Yeah. So we see many manufacturing industries that are overwhelmed with so much information that they don't know where to start. So we call it Industry 4.0 because we have the technology, we have the experts, we have the experience, and we have the roadmap to guide you by the hand in this journey into our digital transformation journey or Industry 4.0 journey as well. So we will see tomorrow which are those services that we can offer. But our strategy is to help you start now embracing Industry 4.0. And we have three main business priorities to help you with. One is to focus whatever you are doing as a manufacturing industry has to be around customer centricity. Yeah. So we want you to consider everything that comes from a customer from delivery point of view, from personalized products point of view, and from there you will start your digital transformation journey. The second one is how can we reinvent production? Yeah. So we see a lot of manufacturing industries have a combination of information technology, which we call IT, and also operational technology, which are equipment, systems, machines that exist and live in the shop floor, such as SCADAs, historians, LIMS systems, etc. So how can we reinvent production? And one of the pillars here is how can we connect the business applications with information technology or with operational technology systems. And having these two worlds connected, how can we reinvent production, eliminating paper-based execution systems, having real-time insight into shop operations, and many more. And the last one is because manufacturing is not an isolated line of business. It has to be fully integrated with sales, services, logistics, business planning, etc. So we need to have seamless, fully integrated business processes from an end-to-end point of view. So we need to connect all the different line of businesses in order to have them seen, having a seamless handover from different processes. We have defined 4 main scenarios for Industry 4.0. And these scenarios are in the middle that you can see here in this blue bar. Yeah, so one is around intelligent products. I'm going to be speaking more into details around each one of these ones. The second one is around intelligent factories. The third one is intelligent assets. And the last one is empowered people. So within each scenario, we have a set of trends and challenges. We have a set of applications and SAP solutions in order to address all these business needs. But also we have 2 showcases, and one is going to be demoed tomorrow. So we're going to have the design to consume showcase in a live tour that is going to guide you into what it is. Yeah. So we actually have 2 manufacturing facilities, one for discrete industries, which we call design to operate, and one for process industries, which it's called design to consume. We have also a website, so you can Google and search for SAP Industry 4.0, where you can have additional information on what is our strategy. You have some keynotes of SAP executive board members. You can also have videos on the showcase, but also you can request a specific guided tour into our factories. The scenarios that we have are one for discrete industries, where basically we are designing a double-seated vault, and you can see all the different phases that it's covering, from the design, the plan, the produce, etc., all the way to the operate. And we have another showcase, which is for process industries, which starts from the creating a new formula or a new ingredient substance, etc. And it's going through all the different phases, from planning, manufacturing, produce, deliver, and all the way to consume. So our fully integrated scenarios that you can see in the live tours, we are going to demo and showcase the design to consume tomorrow. So what is intelligent products? Yeah. So intelligent products are actually equipments and machines and products that actually have embedded software. And the reason of why having embedded software is because these products needs to be intelligent. Yeah. So people want their products to be connected, and people want to have insights into how those products are performing. So having that software capability within the products makes and allows them to have that information in real time. So there is a big challenge, as I was mentioning in the beginning, and it's how we can assist our customers and manufacturing industries to have more innovation cycles more frequently in 1 year. And how can we help them have a seamless handover from engineering to manufacturing? So once we are creating engineering bill of materials, how can there be a seamless handover in create a manufacturing bill of material? So let me give you one example of a customer that is actually using SAP technology to reinvent their assets. So this customer is Stara. It's a customer based in Brazil, and they manufacture equipment for agricultural production. So what they saw as a trend was that farmers were looking to have more information around the equipment, how the equipments are performing in the fields, agricultural machinery, for example, but also how can they have more information about planting processes, soil preparation, fertilization, harvesting, etc. So Stara started to embed software capabilities and IoT capabilities within their equipments, in their agricultural machinery. With this, farmers can now have real-time information and monitor vital farming processes. And with this, farmers have a better insights into what is happening. The second scenario that I want to explain is around empowered people. So no matter how far automation can go, people will always be needed. But how can we provide the right information at the right stakeholder at the right time in the right application or the right tool for them to better execute their daily operations? So we need to empower the people with that. Yeah. So from one point of view, they need to have real-time insights into what is happening in the operations, and this for them to make more proactive decisions, or as we were listening at the beginning, how to anticipate to possible problems. But imagine now we have also people executing or operating in the operations, in the plants, etc. So how can we provide them with the right information? For example, a maintenance operator, a maintenance technician, how can he have insights into what is the protective equipment that he needs based on the type of activity that he's going to execute in a specific equipment, etc. Yeah. So we can empower them with the right information at the right tools in the right moment that it's needed. Let me tell you about a customer that is using empowered people. So Centerpoint Energy is a utility company in Houston that provides electricity and gas. Yeah. And they have worked with SAP in order to scope and implement their harmonized system for tracking safety issues and observations. So with SAP Environment, Health and Safety, it provides, it's given the stakeholders a complete and grown data set that enhance predictive analysis in order to prevent incidents. The other scenario is around intelligent factories. So intelligent factories is about collecting, analyzing OT and IT data, machine data combined with business data, in order to make factories more agile, self-adaptable, and more intelligent to adapt to different scenarios. So there are different use cases of intelligent factories, and the data that can be used, it can be used for manufacturing execution purposes. It can be to have real-time insights into shop floor operations. It can be used to eliminate all the paper-based execution systems or have more flexible dynamic manufacturing operations that can adapt into different order changes. So one of example of a customer is Continental. I believe everybody knows Continental is a tire manufacturer. And they decided to adopt SAP technology in order to connect their shop floor operations, meaning all the equipments, machines, systems that they have in the shop floor, with business applications in order to build the foundation of a smart factory. Yeah. So they decided to have these OT to IT convergence, connecting the shop floor to the top floor. And with this, they started to eliminate all the paper-based execution system. They have automatic machines set up. They have real-time insights into shop floor operations, but not only the insights, it's also the actions. Yeah, so the actions can be triggered automatically based on the events that could affect the performance of the manufacturing operations. And also they have now flexible manufacturing execution system that is based on specific needs, on changes in orders and priorities, etc. Yeah. And the last one that I want to talk about is intelligent assets. So every company wants to improve asset availability, asset performance, and also want to optimize the maintenance operations. So we have a set of applications in order to help you, in order to define what will be the best asset management strategy for the different assets that you might have, but also in the entire life cycle of the assets. So one example that is using SAP technology in order to improve the asset performance is Trenitalia. Trenitalia is it's a Italian train operator. So basically, they operate the fastest trains that so far exists. And for them, it's very critical, the maintenance operations, because they want to improve the service quality and the availability of the trains to their users. So as you can see, maintenance plays a key role in how Trenitalia is addressing that business need. Yeah. How can I have a high availability and a good quality of the services? Yeah. So they decided to work with SAP. They have adopted a use case to do predictive maintenance, so they are collecting data from different sensors that exist in the trains, in order to analyze possible problems that could raise in how the trains are being maintained. And with this, they are defining a maintenance strategy, but they can also predict possible problems and failures that the trains could have. So they actually, by implementing SAP, they are achieving from 8 to 10 reduction in maintenance costs. They improve the reliability and the availability of the trains, as well as a higher passenger satisfaction due to more reliable services. So with this, I have reached the end of my presentation. If you have questions, I would imagine that you are writing them down in the chat.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you, Carlos. Industry 4.0 now is definitely a game changer, and we will have the opportunity to ask questions in just a little bit. But first, we have a special offer from SAP to our webinar attendees, industry-specific advisory and discovery session with Pieter de Waal, SAP's digital business planning expert. So if you'd like to take advantage of this very special offer, then please indicate so in the chat. And Pieter, I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk us through a little bit of what this offer is about. It's a great offer. I'd like to take it myself.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to share my screen here. What I've done is I've prepared a little bit. Can you see my screen there?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. So we, as the industry and customer advisory team, we offer for you some business process, also some opportunity to use our team as a design or as in your discovery sessions. Now, I just wanted to sort of show what kind of services we offer. So, you know, there's the discovery services right on top here. So we have discovery sessions, whether it's strategic or business process or technical discovery kind of sessions. There's solution architecting, there are so enterprise architecting, value discovery workshops, etc. So what we will do is we will come and help you with a discovery session. And really that's to see if you think you have an opportunity. So whether you have issues in your supply chain and we want to try and resolve that for you. And really that's to try and answer these kind of sessions. So this is a chart of the kind of questions we normally get asked. Why should I convert? How will this transform our business? How will we measure our business benefits? And what's the biggest benefits that we have? How long will it take, etc. So these are typical questions that we get. This now is for a movement from the old ECC environment into S/4HANA, but we use the same kind of process if you're a new customer or whether you want to move. And there's a lot of outputs that you can get out of that as well in terms of benefit charts and value and effort and timelines, etc. So that is what we offer. So the offer to do for you today is that we will come and do a free discovery workshop or multiple workshops if you like. It could be by business process. And if you want to take up on that offer, please contact me. I will then arrange the rest of the team. So that's our offer. Thank you very much. And yeah, just type it in the chat and I'll contact you.
Thank you so much, Pieter. And, you know, if you'd like to take advantage of that offer from SAP, please say so in the chat and somebody will respond to you shortly. Now, I'd like to thank all of our speakers. We've had a lot of information thrown at us, and there are a couple of pieces of interest that kind of jumped out at me that I'd like to delve into just slightly deeper. So the first question is, you know, which are the integral and external business drivers that might dictate which innovations, because there's so many, have the greatest potential benefit and warrant prioritization. I'm going to open it up to the floor and have, all of the speakers potentially answer the question. But Jeremy, specifically because you spoke about technology earlier on, and this is about innovation, can I start with you?
Yes, sure. Thanks for that. But I think that's a really good question, because what we see is that a lot of organizations or businesses like to, what I call, chase the silver spoon, the shiny thing, and there's a lot of technology that's coming onto the market, and I think that's where people getting a bit how do I say, a bit confused, that they say, okay, so I've got a problem. Here's a nice new set of technology. Let me put in that piece of technology, and that's going to solve my problem. Chasing that silver spoon, or silver bullet, as I call it. And that's why I think it's really important to understand, what is your problem that you have, as I explained early on, and then against that, start to identify what are the steps that I need to take in order to get there. So those basic steps are, do I have visibility of my information or data? Do I have a planning system that's able to show me where those plans are? Do I have a synchronization tool that's able to synchronize things? And then we can go to the optimization. But I think each person or each business needs to really identify where they are, what we call in that maturity curve. As we've heard, sometimes by doing a self-assessment or getting someone to help you to do that, as Peter was offering early on, doing that assessment to say, okay, where am I on that maturity level? And then against that, you build your roadmap, and you build your roadmap over the next 2 to 3 years, and say, right, these are the steps that I'm going to do in order to solve some of those problems. And always, get those foundations, what we say, get the foundations in place, because if you don't have those foundations in place, and when we talk about foundations, things like master data is the one that comes to bite you all the time. If it isn't cleansed, if it isn't up to date, or if it isn't relevant or set up to how your business is required. But yes, that would be my recommendation.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And you're absolutely right. Get the foundation right first, and then you can build from there. The second question that was of interest to me, and I'll throw it to you, Carlos, since business development is part of your remit. An essential element to consider here is scalability. So how does SAP navigate this for a newcomer, for example, to digitalization?
Yes, precisely. So thank you very much. So my answer will be a little bit tied also as well to the previous question that Jeremy also answered. So completely agree first with Jeremy. So before we talk about scalability, it's important to understand those internal and external business drives. And I'm mentioning this, I want just to do a slight commercial here, because Jeremy was mentioning doing an assessment. Assess how ready are you. So within SAP, we have part of the offering of services in order to guide you in this digital transformation journey. We have a tool to do a readiness assessment. So we have a quick survey to understand what are your current needs and current pain points and challenges, as well as business objectives, and also to understand what is the existing technology that you have. Also, I want to talk about my personal experience. I do have a lot of customer engagements where I feel that the business drivers are not very well identified. And the business driver, from my point of view, is where do you want to go, or what do you want to achieve from a business benefit point of view, and which KPIs do you want to use in order to measure that improvement in performance. And I'm mentioning this because I do have a lot of requests from supposed to be business requirements and business needs, and the customers typically say, I want to connect my SCADAs or my historians with my business application. And then I say, for what purpose? Yeah, what do you want to achieve with it? And that is where I see a missing link. So what is the objective? What is the purpose? What is the business drive in order to have OT with IT converging in real time? What specific KPIs do you want to impact? So now talking about scalability into new commerce for digitalization. I think the first thing that we have to do is to do a readiness assessment. We need to understand where you are, where you're standing right now. We need to understand where you want to go, and definitely you will have a lot of potential use cases or potential needs in different line of businesses. It could be in the business planning, it could be in logistics, it could be in the manufacturing, it could be in the product development and product design, etc., or it could be in the operate from an asset management point of view. So I think first doing a readiness assessment, identifying those critical line of businesses and areas where you have business needs, then maybe we can work together in a type of design thinking workshop where we can prioritize those initiatives in order to find which will have a biggest impact and in the business. And once we have that, then it's deep diving, understand how you are operating, having maybe some site service and discussions, what is happening, and then we can come up with a solution architecture. So talking from a scalability point of view, I think first we need to prioritize what is important for you and where do you want to go. Because if we try to do a big bang, I think it's going to be too overwhelming and too much. So we need to prioritize all the different initiatives. We need to prioritize the use cases. We need to set the right solution architecture that will address those specific ones. But from a scalability point of view, it's important to have this holistic view of where do you want to go from an integrated end-to-end process. So we always have to keep in mind that each of those scenarios that you might define are not isolated. They have to be fully integrated. And we've been talking in these sessions about having fully integrated business processes from the design to the planning, to the procurement, to the manufacturing, to the delivery, to the operate, for example. So we have to keep still a holistic view of where we want to go from a business point of view, and linking all those specific use cases or business needs that each line of business might have. So scalability is SAP is offering fully integrated business applications to have that seamless integration between the entire supply chain. And scalable because we are defining specific scenarios with a specific set of SAP technology and applications to address those ones, but looking into the future, into where you want to take your entire business as a whole.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Carlos. Really appreciate it for that very, very comprehensive answer. MJ, I've left you alone for a while, so I'm going to come back to you now. What kind of challenges have your members come to you to collaborate on in terms of solving in this post-pandemic environment?
Thanks, Mimi, for that question. I think the biggest issue that we hear about is that people didn't have the right skills to manage the situation. So this is something new for everybody. It's very disruptive. And the people came to us and said, we actually set up a sort of a WhatsApp chat group when COVID hit. And you could go onto our website and you could ask questions. And we had people that volunteered outside of our network to give help. Because people were coming and they were saying, I don't know what to do. I don't have transparency what's going on in my business. I need some help as to what should my next step be. Should I buy more inventory? Shall I hire my safety stock levels? What must I tell my customer? So it was really about that whole communication around what to do and not to panic. There was quite a bit of panic. I think, we all knew that everyone was saying, let's all stockpile now, right? Let's all go buy food because we have a food crisis. And that was not the case. So it was very much about getting a good understanding of what is my situation, and it talks a little bit to what Jeremy said and also what Carlos says. Understand what your situation is and then reach out for help. So that was really the main source of questions that we had. And SAPICS obviously is an educational environment. So our volunteers were also very helpful, as they are educators themselves, to try and help those supply chain professionals understand what to do, what are the next steps, and make sure they do a very good risk assessment of their business so they know what good looks like and where to go to solve their bottlenecks.
Thank you so much, MJ, much appreciated. So we've come to the part in our program where we're going to open up the floor to take your questions in the chat box. However, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a bit, we have a special offer number 2 from SAP to our webinar attendees, and this is a free demo access. So if you're interested in this, please go ahead and put everything in the chat, your questions in the chat, or put your hand up so that you know that you're interested. And I'm going to go to Peter. Peter, once again, I'm going to come to you to speak to us a little bit about the special offer, if you will.
Yeah, thank you. Just going to share my screen again. So this one is a little bit more interactive, what I want to do with you guys quickly. This, in terms of demos, what we have is we have a couple of hyperlinks of where you can get free access to demo environments and for trial licenses. So, you know, there's a lot of our software that's got trials available on it. Now, the first thing I want to do is just go into the next slide, and here's an example of some of the trials that we have available. So, for example, on this hyperlink that you see here, you can search for free trials on Google as well, SAP free trials, and you can get this kind of information. In here, then, when you select this hyperlink, it will let's open that quickly. It will help you to register for those trials. So you'll see there's 2 links here. There's the demos environment, and we'll take you a little bit through here what that demo is about, and then the requesting access to those demo environments. And then if you look at the trials here, there are the same kind of thing here where all of these trials are listed. You can select on the one that you want, and you go through a registration process, and that will take you through some of that trials that are available. Now, I just wanted to offer something else as well. SAP also has some tools to help you to do a value discovery workshop or value discovery. And on this hyperlink, what will happen is that you'll be able to select your industry and your business process that you want to look at. And I'll just quickly do one for you, because on here, over and above the trial and the system that you're looking for. So let's say I'm going to look for a manufacturing system, and I'm going to look for something in consumer products. And what it will do, it will help you to identify what the kind of benefits are that you can achieve. And then at the bottom here, you can actually go into in your industry and how you would select guided demos and trials in manufacturing and the consumer products industry. So that is what I've made available here for you. The next slide, okay, there I just did a screenshot. And even on the trials, you can also do this linking by selecting different industries. The last one is also a content repository. What this is if you've heard about products that SAP has got, so for example, supply chain planning, manufacturing products, and that you want to learn more about it, you click on this link here, the central repository, and then on these products, for example, you are able to then get white papers, more information, demos in terms of videos, and learn more about it before you actually wanna maybe request something like that. So in any of these, you can then explore different assets that are available. So you'll see here there's intelligent manufacturing and SAP. There's white papers, customer stories, etc. on there. So yeah, that is the offer. Please go and use that. There's a lot of content available for you to look at on there. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. And that is a great offer. So I really encourage everybody to take advantage of that. The first one, as well as the demo access. Thank you so much, Peter. So it's now time to take your questions. And I have one here from Wesley Esmond. He says, I'm not sure what industry your rural growers are supplying. For example, alcohol beverage, food for human consumption, animal feed, etc. What I have seen, however, from working in the industry for companies like Unilever and Distell, is that a lot can be done and is done by these companies to support their smaller suppliers. So not necessarily your big manufacturers, etc. So whilst the rural grower may not have the means to access business software and solutions directly, can they work with some of their larger customers who are either already have access or have the means to access these solutions? So really talking about the smaller suppliers and the smaller businesses, how can they take advantage? Because they need digitalization just as much as any of us do. How can they take advantage of this, and how can they make it work for them considering their size? So I'll open it up to the floor. I don't know if anybody wants to take this, but let me come to you, maybe Mike or Carlos, because we're speaking from a business development perspective. Could you give us an idea on how you're working with smaller suppliers, and maybe even specifically the ones in the rural sector?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, that was actually a response from Wesley to a question that was put out there. But I think what he's trying to highlight is that it depends what part of the sector you're in. You know, and the question goes back to one of the earlier questions, really, which is around scalability. So if you're a large international agri business, then the scale is different. The access and the pace at which you may want to do things is different. If you're a more rural, smaller, regional player, then scalability is super important, and access to the digital transformation capability may be different. But I think that the message from SAP, and this is always a surprise to many customers, is, you know, we don't just deal with the global internationals. We actually, the majority of SAP's customer base is what we call SME, mid-market customers. So we are very experienced at dealing with customers all the way from, you know, sole operators up to multi-billion organizations. And what Carlos was talking about in terms of, and Peter, in terms of the way we can engage to help understand where you are on the either the maturity curve, or I would more like to say the readiness state. We can work with customers in any size to help you understand how to move forward.
Thank you so much for that. And one more question, and I'd like to encourage everybody who's on the chat to please ask questions. Don't be shy. It's very much an opportunity, and as you know, we've been working through this digitalization age and trying to figure out a lot of things by ourselves. So really glad to have this panel of experts here to help us navigate these questions. So please feel free to ask. We have a question that goes, how long will it take for local manufacturing to return to its stellar years that once made it to the bedrock of our economy? And that question comes from Lonely Kumalo. And I'm going to throw it up to the floor and see if any of my esteemed panelists wants to answer it. How long will it take for us to go back to our stellar years that once made made manufacturing the bedrock of our economy?
So if I can just come in
MJ,
here and
like
talk about it, you know, it's what we always say, it depends.
Jeremy?
But what we need to be doing is, and I always say that, we shouldn't be waiting for someone else to come and define our own destiny. What we need to do in each one of our own businesses is saying, where are we in the current situation? Where do we want to be? And how best do I get out of it? And what we're seeing is that, trends are changing. So product offering is changing. Technology is changing. And what we've seen, from a lot of our clients, that those people who are being more proactive about it and who are preparing themselves for what we call the new normal, those are the ones that are being more successful, and those are the ones that we actually seeing incremental growth in these difficult times. So rather than try and get a crystal ball out, my challenge would be to say, what do I need to do, or what do we need to do as a business to make sure that, first of all, we understand what the new normal is. That means, changing or bringing in new technology or doing something differently. But always what we talk about is there needs to be a reason for change, a burning platform. People won't change for no reason. And what I would say is that this is the best burning platform we're ever going to have. We're never going to have another burning platform like this for another, in our lifetime, I don't think. So rather what I would say is, waiting for someone to do something, I say, this is the time where we need to make that big change, because you're never going to have a better excuse or a better time to make a difference, which is now.
Yeah. Possibly, if I could add to that, Mimi, I think we have a great local example. We know that there's a big drive now to buy local, which will drive that industry in the direction it wants to be. I do know that it used to be a very strong industry in South Africa. But if we just look at the example of Veldskoen, what they have done to turn around their product, they put on nice, colorful soles. They managed to get the shoes onto the Olympic Games, South African athletes. This is a business that actually looked at that situation and said, what can I do and how can I drive my business forward and take advantage of this? And this is really, I think, the important part of it. And, exactly what Jeremy is saying, don't wait for something to happen. Look for those opportunities. They found that opportunity. It's the blue ocean theory. Look what others are doing, but also try and see what has not been done and hook onto that. I absolutely agree that now is the time. And don't wait, get creative and innovative.
Thank you. Thank you so much, MJ. Absolutely. Now is the time. I'm going to stay with you for a minute, MJ, because Bonola is asking, what is digitalization? Why is it important in the SA context specifically, and working with your members? You might understand it probably better than all of us, or for any country for that matter, now and in the future. What are your members saying, and what's your sense in terms of that?
Well, the members, especially during the pandemic, and again, when we had the problems at the port, the members were indicating that it took too long to get information. The whole flow was so broken up that they didn't understand where their business was going. There was complete disruption in their production lines because they had to wait an extra month for parts. And so digitalization is absolutely key. It's all about having that transparency. As I mentioned in my presentation, if you don't know what's going on in your business and you cannot move quickly, then you can also not find the right solution. So many of the members also, and we talk to the small farmers now, and that kind of question is, we can't afford to digitize. And the gentlemen here at SAP are saying, well, SAP has got a little dollar sign next to it, but there are other ways of doing it, and they're absolutely right. But there are also many web-based tools and apps that can help, at least in the short term, things you can subscribe to and then unsubscribe to. So the world of digitalization has changed completely. Whereas in the past, people were afraid. They thought this was this big monster of a project, and that's not the case anymore. It can be done very quickly, and it can be done in chunks. I think Carlos spoke to that, is to don't try and boil the ocean and implement something huge and realize that you don't need it for your business. So a lot of the members are saying, how can you help me? But I want to start small because I maybe can't afford the software, or I don't understand what I need to do. So it's again what Jeremy said, problem statement, do your assessment. And when you digitize it, it's not about just assessing your technology, it's also assessing processes and then people, right? So those three things all are together, and they all have to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, MJ. And one of our last questions by Judy Ali, she says, some of the biggest takeaways for manufacturers from the pandemic is an acute need for them to become more agile and nimble in this fast-changing manufacturing terrain. And we've spoken about this, for the past hour. So how can SAP solutions assist with this? And I think, Mike and Carlos, I'm going to leave it open as to which one of you answers this question, but you've touched on this a couple of times. Perhaps if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think probably a race for me and Carlos to answer that question. So Carlos, just give me 2 minutes and then you can provide some detail. I think it's a superb question, and it really touches to the heart of the impact of the last 19 months. And it goes back to one of the things Jeremy talked about. What's the topic that I am engaged with customer executives discussing the most? It's control tower. And let me just clarify what I mean by control tower. It's not just a planning control tower. This is a complete enterprise visibility. What is happening in my organization? Because what happened in the last 19 months is companies found they were blind. They thought they had a resilient supply chain and manufacturing capability, and suddenly there were weaknesses they didn't have insights into. So, agility and being nimble is different depending on the company and the industry that you're in. But it could be, how quick can I pivot my manufacturing lines from one product to another? If you've made an investment in production lines that is set up just for one type of product, that means you may lack agility and you may not be quite so nimble. So there's a whole range of pieces in there, but it really is the most important thing to think about. The manufacturing industry has changed in the last 19 months. Companies that have made decisions to partially outsource manufacturing, they're now saying, you know what, when those sources of supply were turned off in the early part of the pandemic, the security of their supply chain fell apart. And what I've seen in 2 or 3 regions around the countries around the region I lead, those governments are now saying, how secure is our supply chain and manufacturing within our own borders? And that brings a whole new dimension to agility and being nimble in manufacturing. But Carlos, please add some further color.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. What I can add here, it's I will talk about what I saw when the pandemic hit. And what I saw is that manufacturing industries still needed to continue operating and producing and distributing products. The challenge was that the amount of people and employees that could go was the minimum required. So that means a lot of people had to work from home in remote. And as Mike was mentioning, many companies were not ready to have that type of working environment. They were not ready to work in remote because they didn't have the right information at the right time. They didn't have insights into what to do. And also what we saw is that there are a lot of business processes that are disrupted because of manual interfaces. Sometimes we're doing the business planning in one system, and then we have to export into Excel files and then manipulate and then maybe import into another business process. But there is a disruption in the process because there's a lot of manual operations happening. So I saw a lot of companies not ready for this. Companies were not ready to operate in remote because they didn't have even the basics, real-time information, integrated business processes. So SAP has a big set of applications in order to assist, but I cannot come with a straight direct answer of how can SAP assist right now, because first is we need to understand those business requirements and those business priorities. And then maybe we need to separate them and identify which are the ones that are more critical to help you in this journey. And from there we can take it on. That's what I can say for that.
Thank you. Thank you both, Mike and Carlos. Much appreciated. And unfortunately, we've already come to the end of our program today. Time does really, really fly. I really hope that it was as enjoyable for you as it was for me. And thank you so much for joining us. Now, tomorrow, we have another full program for you. So please don't forget to join us then. SAP and OneConnect will be talking about some of the products, the custom-made products that they have developed to help us understand, get through, and even thrive in this digitalization age. And also, and more interesting for me, in my case, how can SMEs benefit from the products that they have to offer? So join us again tomorrow. But for now, thank you so much for spending your time with us. And we hope that you learned a lot. We hope that you took notes, and we hope that you will apply these to your business going forward. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
When I was 6 years old, I broke my leg. And I was running from my brother and his friends, and tasted the sweet perfume of the mountain grass I rolled down. I was younger then. Take me back to when I found my heart, broke it here, made friends and lost them through the years. And I've not seen the boring fields in so long. I know I've grown, but I can't wait to go home. I'm on my way, driving at 90 down those country lanes, singing to tiny dancer